Hey Doc, happy 5 Minute Friday. Dr. Holly here, your Chiro Profit First coach. Emergency funds, isn't this a fun topic? This conversation has come up a couple of times just in the past couple of weeks, so I figured it would be a nice time to talk about it. You've probably heard the experts say you should have an emergency fund from somewhere to 3 to 6 months of your business expenses. Do you include your owner's pay in that? There's lots of questions surrounding that. I know a lot of businesses kind of run their spending up to what their generation is, right? Up to what their revenue is. And so the thought of saving for 3 whole months of that and not touching it can seem quite daunting if you don't have a big seed of money to put forth for that from the get-go. Just set it aside, etc. So I wanted to loop back around it and give you some practical examples of how I've seen this work. Okay. When I'm working with clients that are trying to implement profit first, often they will start with 1 or 2 buckets of money, your bank accounts, right? And so we move to the profit first model where we are opening up at least 5 bank accounts to use them strategically and they're for certain things. Okay. And one of those being profit. That's the first one that we open. We call it profit first. That account can help you build an emergency fund. I'm going to show you how in just a second. Sometimes I actually like to open up a designated actual emergency fund. If someone comes to me and they have a little pile of cash they've been sitting on and that's just been sort of in their regular checking account, that you might have a comfort level with what they like that to be and they don't like it to dip below that. Sometimes they might just say, okay, let's take that chunk of cash, whatever it is, and let's just stow it away in an account that's labeled emergency fund so that we know particularly what it is for. And it's not there just to be eaten up by your regular operating expenses, because we know that those habits can start to fester, opportunities can present themselves, et cetera, and we can dip into that if it's not sequestered and it's in another space, okay? So I just want to give you some real life client examples just in a couple of weeks about how emergency fund has come into place. We're still in this pandemic, right? I don't think anybody's declared that it's officially over. And so we have, had a little pop-up illnesses that have happened, either between staff or doctors themselves. And I've been hearing back from clients that are like, it's just nice to know that emergency fund is there and that I have the freedom and the permission essentially to take off as much time as I need and make sure that I'm healthy. We know at the end of the day or week, that everybody's going to be just fine. Your patients are most likely not emergency patients. They'll be just fine knowing that you took care of yourself, and that you can come back in when you're nice and ready and healthy. And, a lot of times it is just that knowing that you have the emergency fund to tap into in case you need it. But oftentimes it all works out. Okay. Maybe the revenue's down just slightly from where we projected it to be or where it was this time last year. But for the most part, most docs are able to make it without having to touch it. But it is that peace of mind knowing that it's there. Okay. Am I going to sit here and tell you got to have 3 or 6 months worth? No. I think your first goal is 1 month. Okay. If thinking about getting 3 or 6 months seems way too daunting and way too unattainable, then don't think about it that way. Okay. We just want to start to shave off a little bit of money and pop it over there so that we know that it's there. I had another client who's had some staffing issues. A staff member, I think, went out on leave and then came back in a different capacity. We know that just the job market these days, staff are, it's kind of the ball's in their court, and we don't really know, what people's intentions are sometimes. And so there's been a lot of staffing issues in a lot of the practices that I consult and coach with. But again, business owner came to me and said, I'm so glad I have that emergency fund to know that even if I have to hire somebody on, we have to have 2 people on for a while we're working through this transition, that I have the money there to be able to do it. That's exactly what the emergency fund is for. Okay. I don't think there's going to be another round of big PPP or EIDL or anything like that. So we don't need to think that somebody else is going to come rescue us. Okay. We need to take that into our own hands. All right. So here's that profit first system. Again, we have 5 foundational accounts. The first one just saw where all the money comes in, and then we filter down to these 4. Okay. So this profit, we literally start at 1%. Our goal is to get, usually to 5, 10, or 15%, depending on what your business model is and what income bracket that you're in. Okay. But the first goal is just 1%. Okay. What are we doing? On a regular basis, we're sitting down and we're dripping 1% Get to the good stuff here. Dripping 1% into that profit account, whether that's once a week or twice a month or once a month, we're dripping that money into there. It's all of the money you collect times that percentage, and we're dripping that money in there, okay? And then once a quarter, we take a look specifically just at that profit bucket and we make a decision on what we're going to do with it, okay? So by the book, 50% of it you're going to take out, okay? So if $1,000 has built up, you're going to take out $500 of that. And in most cases, in most scenarios, that is going to be your owner's bonus, okay? That's going to be your profit party, your reward for having a profitable quarter, and you're going to take that for yourself, okay? Depending on the overall strategy of business and where the cash flow is going, if there is a debt destruction plan that we're working on, if you have things that strategically the debt is not working for you and it is something you need to overcome, we can then take your 500 and split that down further and actually paying extra on that debt, okay? But in this if you're first in implementation, I really like you to just take that bonus. It's just a positive reinforcement that this system is going to work for you, okay? 50% stays for an emergency fund. Now, again, I have doctors that do this one of two ways. Either just leave it there in that bucket, or sometimes they'll zero it out and they'll put it off in a vault account, or they'll put it off in that emergency fund, okay? But that is where we start to build it slow and steady, and you know that it's there just for peace of mind. Your emergency could just be one day, okay? Your emergency could just be 1 week. It doesn't have to be 3 or 6 months, and that's what I want to share with you today on 5 Minute Friday, which is almost always 6 minutes. I apologize. Have a good weekend.